Ladies and gentlemen, unless you've been living under a rock, the Denver Nuggets are in the NBA Finals. Nikola Jokic, the 41st pick in the 2014 NBA Draft, just led his team to the grandest stage of basketball where the Nuggets have never been before. The number one seed in the West made it out their side of the bracket and are 4 wins away from claiming their first NBA championship in franchise history. Unfortunately, the NBA world does not care. As much as what the Denver Nuggets have accomplished over the past 4 years, especially this current season, this has come to a shock to many people in the NBA community, seeing them on top of the West and in the finals, which honestly shouldn't be a major surprise to anyone who's been following this team this entire year. They have arguably the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, a top 5 head coach in Mike Malone, an excellent second option in Jamal Murray, and elite level complementary pieces all over the court that fill in the rest of that roster. But still, many people doubted the fact that they would actually make it this far. They weren't even the favorites going into their second round series against the Phoenix Suns with home court. Media members all year severely underrated the performances of one of the best teams in the league all year, and especially in regards to Nikola Jokic. Let's waste no time and get right into it, fellas. Throughout this NBA season, the Denver Nuggets were one of the best teams in the NBA, and we all knew this. They were the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, had one of the best offenses in the NBA, and had versatile pieces on defense to be adequate in that area as well. They were one of the best defensive teams, but 15th ranked defense in the league isn't that bad. We all know how great Nikola Jokic is. The past 2 seasons he's been the back-to-back MVP, and even in this season, even though he did not win the MVP award and lost to Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic had one of the best efficient seasons we've ever seen as a big man, and he had great praise and evidence to win another MVP this year. But it hasn't just been this season. Over the past 4 or 5 seasons, the Denver Nuggets have been one of the most emerging and great young teams in the NBA. Since 2019, they've made it to the conference finals 3 times, and they made it to the NBA finals this year, and this team has been one of the best performing teams under Mike Malone. You can look at the injury issues over the past 2 seasons that they've dealt with, and we understand how grueling that can be for a team that wants to win the championship. And we saw this in how much effort Nikola Jokic put into that season, and with the less adequate help he had during those runs in the past 2 years. We look at how great Nikola Jokic is, and how he's a back-to-back MVP, and even though he did not win the MVP award in this season, he still had such a great season with his efficiency and his production on the court that led many people to believe that he could have been a back-to-back MVP award winner, which has only been done 2 times. But it's not just Nikola Jokic, it's the entire team. Over the past 4 or 5 years, like I've said, this team is one of the best emerging teams and great performing teams in the NBA. However, we already know the media has not been the biggest supporters of the Denver Nuggets over the past few years. Even in this same season, many media members and even NBA fans didn't give them due diligence and their credit, acknowledging their strong performances throughout the year. From what they've done this season, people did not want to acknowledge how great they were and how much of a threat they could have been in the NBA, and they've already proven that. Many people mentioned the injuries over the past 2 years, which, to be fair, did kind of dampen the light of the Denver Nuggets and how they're trying to emerge in the NBA. But if you acknowledge how great they performed those 2 seasons without their best players and how Nikola Jokic carried the load, becoming a back-to-back MVP, which he did, you would acknowledge that this team is still one of the better teams in the NBA and has enough when healthy to be a long-term threat in the NBA title chase for the next few years. Like I said, the Denver Nuggets and their success this season has put a hard reset on how we discuss NBA basketball amongst our peers and in the NBA media. And I gotta talk about number 15 on that team, Nikola Jokic. He deserves his praise. I think we all respect the fact that Nikola Jokic, from where he's come from as a 2nd round pick in the NBA draft to where he's become now as a 2-time MVP and arguably the best player in the world, has to be acknowledged. Even in this season where his numbers statistically dropped, his efficiency was through the roof, and as a big man, his production on the offensive end for others as an engine is something that we have not seen before, especially at the center position in the NBA game. Many people talk about his popularity and his game not being too flashy, but I feel like that's not fair in Nikola Jokic's regard. Talk about a lot of players having dominance on the court. They may not look like a big threat, but with Nikola Jokic, his dominance is felt through his impact, through his passing, through his playmaking, through his scoring, his screen setting. There's so much stuff about Nikola Jokic that people don't really respect, which is crazy to me because a lot of people would love the fact that a player who's so efficient, who can get others involved while being a hub of offense in this generation, which is predicated on space and pace, a 7-foot big man who looks like he sits on the couch is able to leave such a heavy impact on the game today would be astonishing to many people. But instead, many people diminish his production and his performances just because his game isn't flashy or something that can be promoted in a long-term standing for the NBA. It's crazy to me because, like I've said before, this is one of the best offensive engines we've ever seen from a player, especially at his size. And I've said it before, we're seeing something that we have never seen before at the center position. And with that regard and in that aspect, it's insane to me that he doesn't garner that respect amongst the NBA media and many NBA fans who don't see his game as dominant and spectacular as it really is. And seeing Nikola Jokic bring his team to the NBA Finals, where the Denver Nuggets have never been, something we truly have to appreciate because of the work that he put in alongside his teammates that we also have to talk about. His teammates are a big factor into why this team is so great and why they're in the NBA Finals. You talk about Jamal Murray, who's coming back from an injury that he suffered 2 years ago. And I think a lot of people don't respect the fact that Jamal Murray, when he was healthy, was one of the best young guards in the NBA on the offensive end in this game. And as you've seen in this playoffs, when Nikola Jokic has another second option who can take over and win you games, it's impressive and it's important to succeed in the playoffs. I don't know exactly where Jamal Murray would rank in the NBA currently, but I do know that his performance in the playoffs, coming back from the injuries and coming back after 2 years where the Denver Nuggets were definitely missing his production, and it goes to show how important his presence is for this team, how important his presence is to this team. Players like Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Bruce Brown, and KCP, who were added onto the team last year, are all just elite level role players that just give you something that every team needs in the NBA. We've talked about the past few years about how stars run the game. This is a stars driven league, which is true. But to win in this league currently in 2023, you need depth, and you need adequate depth from all areas on the court, and the Denver Nuggets have that. Aaron Gordon with his defensive presence, Bruce Brown with his hustle, KCP with his three-point shooting and defense, Michael Porter Jr. with his three-point shooting. And you have so many different players who are good cutters, good screeners, good shooters, good passers. The name of the game in 2023 is depth. And your best player, Nikola Jokic, is one of the best players in the NBA who can bring out the most out of all his players. Your franchise is cooking up something crazy that can succeed in this game today. And the chef who's cooking all this, you gotta give credit to Mike Malone, who has been one of the big underrated coaches in the NBA, deserve his flowers. I will say this too. I know people don't talk too much about the top 5 coaches in the NBA, the top 3 coaches, or the top 2 or top 1. Mike Malone is one of those guys. You see it on the court when he's going crazy, especially when his team is on the verge of closing out a game, or when he knows that his team needs to get back into a rhythm by calling a timeout in the middle of a run. That emphasis on wanting to see his players succeed is something that I appreciate as well from the Denver Nuggets, and especially Mike Malone. What's so special about the Denver Nuggets and them getting to the NBA Finals is that when we talk about basketball, a lot of the norms and the facts and the stats and the normalities that we know about the game today, the Denver Nuggets in a sense disproved. When you look at the last 12 NBA Finals, it's been headlined by 2 guys, LeBron James and Stephen Curry, dating back to 2011. Adding a sprinkle of Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard, and Kevin Durant, and you have yourself the NBA Finals for the past 12 years. But in 2023, we have the Denver Nuggets led by the second-round pick in Nikola Jokic. Similar to what Giannis did in 2021, the Denver Nuggets just replicated that and has put a reset on how we talk about the game. Instead of talking about the normalities of the agendas, the top 10 players in the league, where does this player rank, we have to discuss what the Denver Nuggets have done this season, and you can't hide from it. And you're seeing it from a lot of NBA media members that truly don't know what they're talking about. I mean, the name of the game today is rim protection, having a great defense. And Nikola Jokic, I don't know if you don't know yet, he's not that great of a defender. He's not that crazy. He's not that crazy of a defender. But the Nuggets were the 15th ranked defense going into the playoffs, yet somehow still made it to the NBA Finals. Many people didn't believe in the fact that Nikola Jokic is just a great engine on offense that could bring out the best out of everyone on this team. And they were one of the best offenses in the NBA in the playoffs, and now we're in the NBA Finals. The NBA needed the Denver Nuggets in the finals because this is what the NBA is all about. The best players playing at the highest level, producing at the highest ends, and succeeding when it matters most. Though we've been headlined by the stars that we all know who are greats, like I said, in Stephen Curry and LeBron James, this will be the 5th straight year where we have a new NBA champion in the NBA, which is amazing because the parity in the NBA only leads to more greatness for this league in the future. A player like Nikola Jokic, who might win his first ring in the NBA, will definitely put him in the precipice of being one of the best centers in NBA history and arguably the best player in the world. And with the success of what the Denver Nuggets have done this season, many people will have to look back at how they talk about the game and analyze how players, even though they're not on the biggest market, or they're a young player, or they're not one of the stars that have already made in the NBA, they have to give them their due credit and give them their shine. It feels like the Denver Nuggets getting to the NBA Finals is the start of the new generation. Not because LeBron James is injured, Stephen Curry and the Warriors are looking like they're gonna have to reform their dynasty. Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant, all these players are definitely getting into the later parts of their career. But the new generation of basketball is forming, and with the Denver Nuggets in the finals, the NBA now has the perfect opportunity to branch in the new generation to be promoted for the next few years. And a lot of that goes onto how we talk about the game, and that's the NBA media as well. I don't like to talk too much about the media because I love breaking down the game, but I feel like the media has been very, very lazy when it comes to covering a lot of these teams in the NBA. I get it. Small market teams don't make as much money as a big market teams like LA, Boston, or Golden State. But with the players that we've seen in today's game, and a player like Nikola Jokic, who has been one of the best players we've seen at his position, we have not given him his credit, but instead have pushed him aside to continue pushing the same narratives that we always push around this time of the year. I mean, I understand how money works. Money talks. Big markets are always going to make more money than the small market teams, but it's bigger than that to me. I'm looking at the players and the production in the game right now that deserve that attention. And the Denver Nuggets, for the most part of this season, did not get their respect. And with them getting to the NBA Finals, they've taken that respect and have put the emphasis on making sure that we understand what we're talking about when we analyze and broadcast and promote this game. Narrative talk, top 10 talk is always going to be there. But I do love the fact that the Denver Nuggets making to the finals for the first time in entire franchise history, led by a second-round pick and a back-to-back MVP, is special because now we can actually talk about what really matters and give these teams their respect for performing well when they haven't gotten it throughout the entire year. But that's my take on the Denver Nuggets. I'm happy that they made it to the NBA Finals. Hopefully they perform well, and we'll see who they face in the NBA Finals coming out the Eastern Conference side. If you enjoyed the video, definitely leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Tell me your thoughts about the video in the comment section. Turn that post notification bell on so you never miss a video. And until next time, stay on beat.